one thing about addiction, you're just so self-absorbed and selfish that you just are not mindful of a lot of other things. You're really on survival mode, really, to be honest with you. You're out here trying to swim. You can't think about other people drowning. You're just trying to just stay afloat your darn self. I remember my oldest son would come up to me. He would hug me like he had 1,000 pounds on his shoulder. He would let out his tears and almost like a faint, almost like I had to hold him up, like he became the husband's son. It's like he had to hold all of that weight that he should not have, that his daddy should have been holding. Guys, welcome back to another episode of Quest for Life. As you see in the backdrop, man, and my boy and me, Stevie, we're out here at the park and just enjoying the peace, man. And when I came to my own story, I kind of want to get out of the studio and kind of get into more of nature. I mean, the perfect setting for me would have been the beach. I mean, I'm a beach baby. I would love to have the ocean as a backdrop and just chilling out. And maybe sometime in the future we could do some filming out there. But for me, I needed the ambiance and even the kids that are here in the backdrop here and the swings and everything else, because I really want to talk about my kids, my children, and the effect that I felt addiction had on them. And so I want to address this to the men and women who will go through addiction, have been through addiction, or even have been separated from their own kid, their own children, or their own families. I believe, and I talk all the time, I'm a scripture guy. The word says, God will return the years that the cankerworm, the palmer worm, the locust, and the caterpillar have stolen. What does that really mean to me? When it says God will return the years, we lose time, we lose relationship, we lose so much when we are out chasing our addictions, and our children, our loved ones are literally at home going through it. They're at home worrying and they're concerned about, are we alive or not? They're concerned, is this ever going to change? They're going through their own guilt and shame. Is it something I did? What am I doing wrong? And they're creating their own pain and their own sickness just in their own minds, trying to figure out what is going on with their loved ones. Now, if I can back up, my youngest son, I don't know dates, and I'm not even going to continue or even try to give you dates about their births and all that stuff. But my oldest son, I believe he's like 31 now. I remember when he was young, when he was first born, I was in my addiction. Uh, I went to prison probably when he was about 6 months old, maybe, and got out of prison when he was 2. So to back up a little bit, so you know that background, I went to prison for theft, and I stole my father's golf clubs, and I pawned them to go get high. Now, my intention was to pawn his golf clubs when he was out of town because I knew I had a check coming. When I was going to get that check, I was going to go back, take them back out of the pawn shop. He never knew they were gone. Well, the problem is when I took his golf clubs to go get high, when my check came, I went to go get high. And when he came back, he was pissed. He was mad. He was like, man, I mean, come on, man. I mean, he got tired of being taken from because it wasn't the first time he'd be taken from, but my brother, who was an addict, had been taken from him. I'd been taken from him. I mean, the addiction is sick. And those parents who have addicts, you can't even leave your purse around. You can't even turn your back, it seems, because they're walking away with some addicts. It's such a deep sickness. So my dad was like, man, enough is enough. Look, I'm going to call the police on you. And so I went to jail for that. Now, did my dad think that it would turn out to be a felony in my life or felony in my record? Because that's a whole nother can of worms that you have to try to live life with a felony on your back. No, I don't think he thought about all that. I think he just wanted to teach me a lesson. Nevertheless, so I was on probation, deferred adjudication at this time. This is way back when my son was really, really young. and, well, actually before he was born, and I was trying to at least get it off my record, but I couldn't stay sober, so with deferred adjudication, I was not passing my drug test. Nevertheless, went to Huntsville. I was in a holiday unit. When I got out, my son was 2 years old. So I have good memories of my son, my oldest son, because even when my oldest son, if you heard in my prior testimony, I have a lot of years. I mean, when I say I have 30 years total of using, doesn't mean I used 30 years in a row. That's different. Now, I've heard many people's testimonies when they've used 30 years in a row and they're just beat up and their life looks like it. I've been sustained, I feel, not only by the grace of God, but I've been sustained because I've not stayed in the muck and mire the whole time. God has moved me to places of safety, moved me to health, and I've been able to sustain it for a year and fall and get sober 6 months and use for 8 months and get sober for a year and a half and then fall back and get sober for this. So I've had these on and off points in my life where I've been able to build and to break down. Now, you've heard me say this before, so before I get into the story, let me just say this. That that Joker, that's insane, man. It's building the house to the last shingle to tear it down. And if anybody knows anything about contractual work, construction work, the stuff that goes into just preparing the ground before you put the concrete in and the rebar, before you put the sheet, before you put in any kind of framing work or anything that goes into the process of building a house, it's like building a house to the last shingle to tear it down, to go through yet the same processes all over again. And now that's insane, but that's addiction. So let me back up now, then get into my story. So my son, Chase, Chase Brendan Austin Chase Maynard, he was 2 years old, loved him to death, enjoyed him. I didn't get to spend his baby childhood with him because I was locked up. But when I got out, his mother and I were not married. Um, I was sick and definitely creating sickness in her, and she was going through her own trials and tribulations. But I do remember scattered times with him, but because of my addiction, the mother of my children, we probably had more fights and off time than we did as a family. We tried to create the best we could as a family situation, but I was sick. I didn't know how to love myself, so how was I gonna love her? I don't know how to be a father. I didn't. I wanted to be a father. He deserved to have a good father. He really deserved to have the best of me. But I thank God that I had parents around that helped offset me, that during my bad times, they were there to be there for him, to love on him, to show him good, solid grandparents, and they loved my son. Um, Thereafter, 5 years later, I had my daughter, Kennedy. And that's probably the hardest story of it because Kennedy came during the hardest hit of my addiction. I really did not get a lot of quality time with my daughter, unfortunately. Chase and I were on and off. We were there. I could there as much as I could be. I didn't want to be an absent father, but even through my sickness, I would make sure that I was there for him the best that I could be, financially there for him, because I've always kept a job. Even through my addiction, I always worked. And even if I had to do day labor, I always kept a job. So I always paid my child support and all these other things. So he generally had what he needed. And my parents, again, offset that. Kennedy, on the other hand, I was really sick during Kennedy. Um, so her youth, I very rarely remember much time of spending with my baby girl, holding her, and really that's where a lot of her reflective pain comes from, that she just didn't have memories of daddy. Daddy being the protector, being there for her. Yes, her mother was there, and Fran was a great mother and is a good mother still. But because of these big and pieces missing in Kennedy's life, I believe that Kennedy wanted to be a daddy's girl, but daddy wasn't available for his girl. So I don't know how old she was. She's probably about 4 or 5. Chase being 5 years old, around 10. I moved to Hawaii. Now, Fran and I didn't get married. I had 2 children, but I ended up meeting another woman and we got married. Um, we moved to Maui, Hawaii. We bought some land on the west side of Kahanapali. We were building a house out there. She was a well-to-do lady. But during this time, I always missed my children. I missed them dearly. So I remember my son one time drew a picture, and in this picture, it was his mother and I pushing him and his sister on a swing. Some reason that convicted my heart. I'm like, I'm married to this woman. She's an engineer. As a matter of fact, she has her own engineering firm. We've got 5, 6 whips in the driveway, big old beautiful house, living life, and she's staying in a motel room with my children, walking the kids back and forth to school. Talking about a conviction in my spirit. Here I've moved on with life, and she's struggling with my own children. And so the conviction in my spirit is like, man, I should get back with her. And so again, I'm just hurting people along the way because I'm just confused. I'm trying to figure out what life is in life terms because I've just taken so many wrong turns. I don't even know how to be a man yet. I don't even know how to do things. Yet I have pockets of sobriety because it's not sustained. It's not consistent. And because it's not consistent, it's not learned. It's really not learned. I'm just going through these practices and these areas of my life trying to figure out what it is. So I'm on the west side. Before she even moves there, as we're building a house on the west side of Maui, I moved to the other side of Maui. This part is called Wailuku. Sorry, Wailuku. So we moved up in Wailuku. Uh, at the time, I'm working in Queen Kahumani Mall. I'm a hairdresser there, so I'm doing really well. Now this is the time I have a lot of sobriety. Now I moved to Maui. For some reason, Maui was a saving grace for me because it was like I was able to separate all of that pain. And I don't know what it is about crossing water. It's almost like all that stuff left in the mainland. And so when I get to Hawaii, everything has changed for me. I'm sober. I'm seeking God. I got my stuff together. I'm a hairdresser. I'm in the uh, Master Cuts salon. Out of the whole division, I'm talking about out of tens of thousands of hairdressers in that, I'm like number 3 in the nation. I'm killing it, making big money, living in paradise. So I was like, Fred, you ain't gotta work. Come on, you bring the kids on, you guys. I want to get you out of the hotel. Let's see if we can make this work. Now that I've divorced my ex-wife and we moved here. Well, they move over and things are good. Things are good at first. Her and I are trying to figure out this relationship. Fran and I were always good at friendship, but we sucked at relationships. I don't know. Like we both had to work through some things in our lives. But nevertheless, we get married in EL Valley. I end up having my youngest son, DJ. Now, these are some good years for us because I'm finally starting to build up some good memories with my kids. Number 1, they're in Maui, Hawaii. It's almost like being in a foreign country. They're in this island and it's beautiful, and you got all these cultures and all these experiences, and they're learning these languages and Hawaiian dancing and all these things are just wonderful. Their mom and dad are together. The baby's born and all these things are going good. I'm killing it on my job, and we got cars, and we walk out on our porch and we can see the ocean, we see the whales. It's beautiful. But then her and I aren't getting along. Here we hit a hiccup in the road to the point that I don't want to be in the house. And then where do I go? I go into the streets. And then somehow you go back and you find the same muck and mire that you thought you left. So now I relapse in Hawaii. The hard thing about that is now I'm fully separated from family. I relapse there. I've opened that Pandora's box again. I've got the responsibility of taking care of this family. I've got rent that's off the charts because it's very even back then, this is back in the early 2000s, milk was $5 back then. You can only imagine the cost of everything living in this, I wouldn't call it foreign land, but it almost is. At least it was to me. And now I've relapsed and opened that door. And now here comes insanity again, just running through, and my household's getting disrupted, and my job is inconsistent, and I'm not showing up for work, and I'm trying to get to work, and this, that, or and I fighting to the point everything was falling down and falling apart. I remember moving to, not moving, I went to rehab in the Big Island of Hawaii. That's kind of where I got the inspiration. I'll get more into my children in a minute. I'm just kind of letting the God just kind of direct me in this conversation. I remember going to this rehab on the Big Island, and they used to get a lot of people who were on probation and parole and more. They were taking advantage of these guys so badly. That was when I made a commitment. I said, God, I'm tired of seeing people mistreated. So you can get me sober, I'll start a program. That was the very place I remember making that verbal commitment to God. I was like, look, I've been to enough of these. I can run my own. I've been to enough of those. I know what's conducive and not for a person to go through addiction. And he eventually gave me that. Now, back to the kids. Things were going really, really well. Now, Fran and I are having issues. We're having such issues that it's hard for me to even be in the house. And eventually, everything starts falling apart in Hawaii. My mother and father were like, look, you're way too far away for us to even intercede, to even help. It got so bad that I lost my job and I was making even back then about 80,000 a year. I was doing well for myself in that industry. My hairdresser, well, she was more the supervisor. She said, look, Daniel, why don't you come to California, Sacramento? We can get your job there. My hours would be able to just be moved over into California and be able to get my license there. So we got all that planned out. I moved first to move my family over there. I went to Texas, grabbed furniture, went to Sacramento. But the problem is, I never got healthy. So I moved there, got the house set up to send them to come from Maui to Sacramento. But daddy's still sick. I'm still sick. I still am not consistent in life. I still don't know how to navigate this thing in life. And there lies the problem. So they just moved into another place of insanity. So we had it all set up, but then here I am trying to stay consistent with my kids, but I was very sick, in and out of rehabs in Sacramento, just could not stay consistently sober. And because of the felony on my record, I couldn't even get a decent place for my kids. The only place I can get was kind of in the hood that would accept a felon. The street over was a major drug addiction area. So you can only imagine, here I am trying to stay sober, trying to stay with my kids, and all I have to do is walk one street over, and it's got every drug of choice I can imagine. If I can look on my porch over to the street over, and everything's right there. So, nevertheless, it did not work well. So, do I have good memories with my children there? I mean, we had a little bit of adventure, but they had more time with a sick father, with a mother and father fighting, than they did with their father being consistent in their life. And so what they remember more is dad was there, but dad was not there. Dad was in the house, but dad wasn't present. There's a difference. My person may be there, but am I presently involved in your life? So about 2 years of that, I just, Fran was tired of it. I was tired of it. We couldn't continue on the relationship. It was just so much turmoil that my dad was like, son, just come back to Texas, come to Austin. And that's where he was. Excuse me. So I moved to Austin away from my kids. Now, my intentions were to come get my life together. That's really what my intentions were. But what did it feel like? I felt like a papa bear that went out to go get food for the mother bear and the baby bears in the cave and never come back. It's kind of what it felt like I'm scouting out to get provisions, but I left them to fend for themselves. Ultimately, yes, my intentions were to kind of get myself together because really I was infecting the family. I mean, to be honest with you, I needed to go. And I think that was a God thing to me. I was causing more of an infection or a negative effect on them than I was a positive effect on them. So separation needed to happen so that they could heal, so that she could heal, so that I could heal. But instead of healing, my sickness put me back into my addiction. So in my first story, you talk about that aha moment that I had about that scripture about picking up your cross and following him. That was right when this time hit. And so I went to Gonzales, Texas. And in Gonzales, Texas, I went to a rehab called Eternal Awakenings. Eternal Awakenings is a beautiful rehab in Gonzales, Texas. My spiritual mother, Carla Welsh, and my spiritual father, Jim Welsh. A beautiful location, beautiful facility. That's when I kind of found myself. But the problem is, all this time, I'm still separated from my children. I think there's a part of me that justifies I'm paying child support, they're okay. But because I've never really been a present father, didn't know how to be a father, I never really kept in mind what they're going through emotionally. without a present father. My son and my daughter, because I would go visit them, and again, you just have to excuse the ignorance. I was ignorant. I didn't know. I just didn't know, because one thing about addiction, you're just so self-absorbed into self and selfish that you just are not mindful of a lot of other things. You're really on survival mode. Really, to be honest with you, you're out here trying to swim. You can't think about other people drowning. You're just trying to stay afloat your darn self. But I would go there and visit California, every 6 months, and see my family there, my children, see friend, and you know, love on them for a week, however long it was. And I remember my oldest son would come up to me. He would hug me, but there was he would hug me like he had 1,000 pounds on his shoulder. He would let out this tears, and almost like a faint, almost like I had to hold him up. Like he became the husband's son, if you understand what I mean. It's like, bless his heart. It's like he had to hold all of that weight that he should not have, that his daddy should have been holding. I did leave him with this before I left Sacramento. I said, "Son, I need you to step up and take care of your brother and your sister." And he took that literally. I think part of the problem was mama also didn't have anybody to lean on, and he was such a mature son, always strong, that he had the shoulders, or we felt that he had the shoulders maybe to maintain some of that weight, and that was just an unfair expectation put on him. It's not fair to put that on him. But he just did what a responsible son would feel that he would. Like many have testimonies of daddy was not there, and I had to step up, and I had to be a good father or a good big brother, and so then later on they go through stuff because they missed part of their childhood trying to be uh, a person that they're not supposed to be. Some make it through, some regress at some point in their lives. So I remember visiting, and then I would see that weight on him, and I began to notice it every time I would go more and more. Could have I kept better in touch with them? I wish I would have. I really do. It's different now, and I'll get to that part of the story. Um, but I've learned that the more that I got sober, the more that I could be there for them emotionally. Because if I'm not sober, I'm really not trying to be in their faces because I'm really embarrassed. Um, there's shame, there's guilt, there's frustration. Nor do I want to impose what I'm going through on them. They don't deserve that. I just don't want to impose that. And then the selfishness of addiction, I'm busy chasing my drug of choice anyway. So I'm not thinking about them like that unless I'm having a still small moment. Then I'm considering, oh God, how are my kids? Oh, I haven't talked to them. Well, oh, let me call my children. What was the effect on them? Abandonment. That's the effect on them. Let's keep it real. Abandonment. They felt abandoned. Did their father really love them? And did I ever consider that when everybody's asking, "Hey, I see your mom. Where's your dad at?" "Well, my dad's over here." "Well, what does your dad do? What's your dad like?" But what are they even giving an answer to that question? "My dad's a crackhead." Is that the answer? I don't know what they answered, and I don't know what questions they were asked. But I can imagine at some point there was some discomfort in that. I remember even my daughter and my son would say they would be in the car with their mother, and they would see a family drive up in a vehicle, and they look over at that vehicle, at that family, and they would feel like, "Well, why don't we have that?" And I wonder how many kids go through that, where they see these other family dynamics, and they're laughing, and then they're playing in their car, and the reality hits, we don't have dad here. And the reality hits, we have mom, but she's struggling. Mom may be going through depression. Mom trying to make it happen. You know what I mean? Man, that's a lot on a child. And I just say back up in addiction. Addiction affects so much. I mean, we can look at, "Oh, what about me? I'm going through it." Well, you are, yeah, going through it, but you're also causing this crap. We're creating this in other people's life. And we have to take ownership and say, yes, I made a mess. Yes, I'm sorry, children. And it began to come to that when I finally was able to muster up time. And I always tell people in addiction, what happens is people start getting sober, and they want to restore everything at once. And so in my position, I often will talk to people. I'm like, look, you're months sober. Don't go selling all these tickets to your family. I'm changed. I mean, let them celebrate that, but let them see that. Because often, a lot of times, we get sober, we want to run after this thing before we're ready to do that. That's why we say before we start making amends with family, before we start getting reattached, get yourself solid because we don't want to recreate more wounds. And that's what happens 9 times out of 10 if we're not mature and ready, we create more wounds. Why? I'm gonna tell you why also. Because if you run after them and you just think you're gonna be just embraced with these open arms, man, you're kidding yourself. They've got pains, they've got frustrations, they've got all these things that they have been completely engulfed in now that they have to begin to progress themselves to, that they're gonna have to pull themselves out of. It's a major issue when you're dealing with being reconciled back into your families. It's not simply, I'm gonna run back and they're just gonna accept me. Of course they're gonna accept you, but they wanna see you first. Are you who you say you are? Are we gonna turn around and 2 months later you're gonna make an absolute mess of what you're doing? That's why we have to really move according to the Holy Spirit and how you move. Unfortunately for me, I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I'd run to my children, "Oh, daddy's different now. Come on, kid. I don't know." And then daddy's there. And then daddy's not there. And then daddy's there. And then daddy's not there. Then dad's there again. And then daddy's not there again. So imagine how that would make you feel. Somebody who's not in addiction, someone who is in addiction, I'm speaking to. Imagine how we were making somebody else feel. So we often want to get frustrated and angry because they won't accept us back. Bro, wait up. Hold up for a minute. Take your accountability part and see what we've been doing to other folks. We've been breaking people's hearts, man. We've been hurting them, devastating people. And so for any of them that have any love for us, that is a thing of God because some of us have done more than others. Some of us has really trespassed. And unfortunately, I meet a lot of people who come through the program who I ministered to and who I do outreach to have gone so far that the families are like, I'm done. I don't care what they do. Families have had to close the door on them. That's how bad it is. But this is what I believe. And I said the scripture at the very beginning. If you hold yourself accountable and have recovery. Oh, now I just said something. Recovery. It's not about being sober. There's dry drunks that are sober. Okay? But recovery is different. That means I'm working a program to change and to grow. That's where AA really comes in a good place. You don't have to go AA, the NACA, but if you're working at a program and you're looking at yourself and you're starting to dig into those defects of character and you're looking at the problems and you're looking at the root issue is not the drug. I mean, come on. If this, you see my little peppermint there, we're gonna make this peppermint be crack cocaine. If this little peppermint that I put right here was crack cocaine, the problem is not that crack cocaine. The problem was, why am I deciding to ingest this and to anesthetize the way that I feel? That's the problem. Why do I feel that I need to change myself physiologically or chemically or mentally or emotionally so that I can cope with life? That means I have something else going on in me that I have to look at the root issue of this. That means the root issue is what's really going on with me. Recovery is the courage to start looking at the root issue in your life. What is really going on? Was it molestation as a child? Did I get molested? Was it abandonment? Was it neglect? Was it this? Was it whatever it is? But if I can join forces with somebody, mentor, sponsor, program, community, somebody that can help me navigate the forest and the trees. Come on. That's my saying. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to stick with that. I'm in this trees and it's dense and it's the Amazon forest and I can't see I don't know where I'm going. But I better find a native who is indigenous to that place, who understands that area, who can pull me and take me by the hand and say, brother, you were close, but the trail is literally a mile from here. Come with me and I'll lead you on. When we can begin to heal inner healing, when we can be able to surrender to God, when we can confess our faults one to another, so says the word, and so says AA, start beginning the healing process. And when we can walk through steps 1, 2, 3, and get to 4, and we're making a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, when we can kind of get there, I'm starting to take inventory of myself. There's a time when I can begin to make amends. There's a timing for this. And the key is when I'm ready to start making amends is when I'm ready eternally to stop making the same choices. That's when people can receive the amends. That's when my relationship with my children really started to change. Now, did that mean I was perfect? No, 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 no. No, sir. I got some defects I'm still working on. And if you don't believe it, when my wife interviews, just ask her, she'll tell you. I'm quite sure. I'm a piece of work, but I'm not where I used to be. I'm not who I used to be. I'm a new creation in Christ, and I have a right to proclaim it. Old things have passed away, so says the word, and it says, behold, like presenting Daniel, now all things have become new. I'm a new creation. And in this new creation, now you can say even as a baby in Christ, you're born and you're starting to walk and you start to build maturity, coming off of milk and coming into meat, coming into different understandings and revelations of self. These things are imperative. But now that I'm this new creation, now that I have a new mind, now that I've got new information, now that I've got this revelation that I don't have to be that old guy. Now God, because remember he says, I will bring back what has been stolen. He says, I will, not us. He says, I will bring back the years that have been stolen. And let me tell you something that's profound. I used to sit down with my daughter. She was 18, 17, 16. Man, I'm going to try not to cry on this. It's profound. So I would be with my daughter and we're just smiling. I said, come here, baby, sit in my lap. She would sit in my lap and I would hold her. She would somehow turn into this 2 or 3-year-old little girl that she was able to go back and revisit emotionally. And somehow that began to heal those absences or those scars in her life just by God creating this moment, this encounter that we both shared where it was almost like nothing else mattered around us. It was Kennedy, it was me, and we had this moment. And as I could see her in this little girl and I could see it in her eyes, I could see her melting as daddy's baby. I was melting and fighting in tears. I'm like, oh my God, this girl. I was just fighting it because I could see God doing something and recreating moments that was so imperative. Okay, so guys, I'm talking this camera to death. Our camera's like, wait, wait. So I'm going to end on this and we will pick back up on another segment because we got more segments we can talk about. So where I'm going to end at is my sons and I relationship, how we are able to start restoring. God restores the years that were stolen. The key is work on yourself. Do your own self-healing. Do the things that are necessary for you to get past these things so that you can be emotionally, mentally, and spiritually available for the family member. So trust the process. Work on yourself. We'll talk more in depth about that because I want our camera to die here. So our camera's going to need a break. So we're going to pick back up on this. Love you guys. Quest for Life. Check it out. We'll pick back up on next segment. God bless you.